All right, hi everybody. Welcome to How It Works, the Big Hats episode, where we'll discuss what happens while you're the crown of Meridies, from the moment you put the crown on your head to the moment you take the crown off your head at decoronation. I am, of course, one of your hosts, Graf Ulrich. I'm a knight, a pelican, and a royal peer. And as always, I'm joined by my partner, the reigning, undisputed, uncontested, shenanigan champion of the, my co-host, Eric.
Hi, guys. I'm Sir Erik, Knight of Kittens, bringer of joy, and I am that shenanigan champion. Today, I have the honor of introducing a couple of people who are themselves experts in the shenanigan field. That, however, will not be what we were discussing tonight, I think. Please give a great welcome to the Ginger Menaces themselves, their graces, Rhiannon and Bryce. Please, if you could introduce yourselves for us.
Take it away, Rhiannon.
Oh, great. Thanks. Hi,
Well,
I'm
you
Rhiannon.
always first.
Yeah, whatever. I'm Rhiannon of the Isle. I'm a Duchess by the grace of having been fought for by two feisty dukes now. I have been in the SCA since 1983. I'm a pelican and a royal peer, Lady of the Rose, and I've spent my entire SCA career in Meridies. And I can't imagine a better place to do it.
Hey, I'm Sir Bryce. Yep, I'm a Duke. I won twice, and one was with Rhiannon. The first one was with my wife back in 95-ish. And I've been in about the same time, 83, 82-ish. You know, I can't remember when the official time was. Whenever Connell drugged me out to Delano Park in Decatur and said, "Hey, look, they're beating people with sticks. Let's go do that." So it was about 1983-ish. Yep, I'm a knight. I took a big break about year 2000 to 2007-ish for personal family stuff. And then I came back, and then now I'm back.
Well, welcome back and welcome to the show.
Thank you.
I want to thank you both for being here, especially you, Your Grace Rhiannon. I know how much you love the ESCA, but I really appreciate you taking the time to pass your knowledge on to others. That's very much what we do, and I wanted to say thank you for that, especially. All right, so I hope the two of you got a chance to watch the previous episodes, the big day, the day you win crown, and heirs. Apparently, your time as heirs. And I was wondering, just in case there was something that you were like, hey, yeah, I want to point that out again, or hey, you guys really missed this one thing that I really wish you would have covered. If you got a second to look at those, do you have any bringbacks for us?
Not really for me. Y'all have a great outline for this, and everybody seems really prepared and has time to think out, what's going to be covered. So I applaud y'all and the other participants for that.
Yeah, I'm going to be completely honest. Sorry, I haven't watched the other ones. I haven't done my homework. I'm very bad, but it was between you and Wonder Woman, and you didn't have Gal Gadot on your show, so sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Once you do, I'm watching it. But actually, yours probably was a better show, from what I hear.
Well, we'll
Still, no Gal Gadot, though.
We'll slide right past that. So you both were crowns in the 90s, and then again 20-ish years later in 2017. So if you don't mind, is there a significant difference in how things work the first time to the second time? Please note that on coronation day, does it really start off with court? And if it does, what's the preparation for coronation court look like?
Okay, well, that's a lot to cover. As far as reigning back in the 90s and reigning recently, it's amazing how much is different. Not the SCA itself particularly, but what has to go into being crowned, because dinosaurs, our first reign, everything was done via snail mail. Internet was pretty new as far as a mode of communication. I was very fortunate in that I got to communicate with my other half and with our royal parents, who were Bryce and his wife. This time around, everything's online and communications are instant, and there are pros and cons to that.
Yeah, definitely. The speed. That's one thing I noticed, big difference between then and now, is that the speed of decision making, the speed of talking with people, getting things done, but also back in the about the 90s, email really wasn't considered all that official. I mean, like Rand said, it was a lot of through the postage stuff. That's how you got awards recommendations. You toted around these big old files and files and files of paperwork with award recommendations, and then you'd go through them and you had to bring them everywhere. Now, whoever put up the Google Docs, and I heard through the grapevine, it was like I think Adam R. or somebody, or maybe his chancellor or somebody around in that time, put up Google Docs and started doing award recommendations through those. It makes it a whole lot easier, a whole lot faster to get good awards out to people. So, and also the groups, the Facebook groups that you get added to, like 13 or 14 or 15 of them, and it can overwhelm you just a little bit, especially at first. But the good thing is usually you get added to them when you're heirs, so you get a chance to kind of get used to them by the time you become crown. That you're kind of like, yeah, okay, I'll mute. Oh no, better not mute. So you know what to listen for, and what's urgent and what's not, because there is so much information. That's another thing I noticed, a big thing between then, and we'll probably discuss this a little bit about official business of the crown, is that there's more official business than there was back then. A lot of signing and approving of warrants and lots of paperwork, because we can do it so fast with the internet. I think some crowns liked it, and then once a crown likes it and starts doing it, then it becomes gospel. So you get a whole lot more stuff than it was back then. I think back then there was a lot of stuff that was taken. Kingdom, the kingdom officers took over some of those official things, and now the crown does more of it. So I think it was just a couple crowns like to do it, and it just became part of it. So. Oh, and okay, so now Coronation Day. I'll start off on that. Coronation Court. All right, so I'm again, sorry I didn't do my homework. I don't know if you talked about this in the previous one with the Prince and Princess time, but really you want to theme your reign, and your Coronation Court's probably the debut of your reign. So that's something you're going to want to spend some time on. Have someone either do it for you or do it yourself. Rhiannon and I's reign was Viking themed, because they're comfy clothes and we like comfy clothes. That was basically the reason why we picked it.
And we hadn't done that before, so.
And we hadn't done it either. Yeah, I did high Tudor stuff because Isabel loved to sew and I don't. And and I looked like Henry VIII and it was awesome. But with Rhiannon, it was we decided we want to go Viking. So I had a great resource, Sir Finvar, just up the street from me, about 30 minutes. And I said, hey, I want to do this. How do I do it? So he helped me out a lot with the ceremony. He had a couple of documentation stuff of how an all thing was done, and that's kind of how the ceremony kind of came about on paper. And the coronation ceremony can be extremely not so fun, or sort of dull, because a lot of it's just fealty. I mean, some people put business in there, but we knew that our fealties were going to take along, because we feel fealty is very important, and we wanted each individual order to come up. I think we did it in the order that they were created in the society, if I remember right. That's how we had it.
The only difference was we had the roses first because
they were because of doing the county stuff.
Right.
So again, so you want to nail that down prior to, and then have everybody on script during the day, because it can get confused. It can get discombobulated. When Isabel and I, our first one, it got a little overwhelmed. We kind of missed some things during it, and you make mistakes, and just you kind of make apologies for it if you made one, and drive on and just kind of go on about it. But the day is almost like if you've ever been married, it's almost like a wedding day. You kind of remember it sort of in a surreal sense, because there's so much stuff happening, and by the end of the day you're exhausted and you're like, did that really happen? Yeah, I guess it did. Has nothing to do with having the beer Draka there with mixed drinks 4 hours 7 that you could go up and go after court and drink as much as you wanted. It has nothing to do with that. Nothing.
Nothing.
Nothing. No.
But you, Rhiannon, do you remember anything specific about that?
Well, like Bryce said, that was something that we felt really needed to be planned out and scripted. And we followed script, and Finbar did a great job. Everybody involved did an awesome job. We, you want your coronation to be memorable, but we didn't want the ceremony to drag out forever and ever. Amen, because there is just so much to get accomplished in the day that you don't have time to. As Bryce said, you've got fealties was the main order of business for us in our opening court, outside of the coronation itself. And then every minute of your day is accounted for. So I don't want to sound crass, but it's like, let's get this done because we've got this, and this to do. And you want to try to do everything. And like Bryce said, sometimes you miss something, right. You apologize that you missed, but it's, drive on.
Well, you guys actually just answered my next question, which was, is there a specific order and how you do that? But you just, you said you had a certain order you wanted to do things in by your script. So you took care of mine.
Schedule, because, we have a schedule, and that is predetermined between the Crown, their advisors,
right.
Officers, and the autocrats of the event, because it's got to be in a schedule so everybody knows what's going on, the populace. But so they can be involved in what they want to be involved with, or they can hang out at the beer Draka and just have a good time.
That's actually a good way to ask that portion. So when you're laying out the schedule for coronation, because I know that's not in our questions. When you're laying out the schedule for coronation, is it the outgoing crown that sets that? Is the incoming crown that sets it? You guys work together, and how much input does the autocrat actually have? Because it's really y'all's day, right?
Yeah, coronation day.
Well, it is really our day.
Yeah, yeah. Coronation day is typically the incoming crown's day, and we felt that way when we stepped down. That was Stephanie and Ismay's day. When it was there, it was like, hey, how do you want it to go? We've got it scripted how we're getting out. And we'll talk about that a little bit later. But so we definitely wanted Bart and Oda to feel free to do whatever they wanted to up to where our stuff took over. I think they had a great exit strategy. I've never seen Erik prettier. more ginger than ever.
Are you sure about that?
Well, I've seen you a couple of times in various sundry, but I have a picture of you and my son standing side by side, and y'all's hair pretty much match. It's kind of frightening. So, but no, that was so. And they were real. We were very. It's really nice to have real tight relationships with the crowns that are before you and after you. So that's something the constant communication. That internet helps with that too. So you can send scripts. I sent the script to Bart and Oda, and they looked at it and said, yeah, it's fine. Where do you want to fit our stuff, and what time do you all want to start the thing? And we had a pretty loose morning schedule. They had their awards they wanted to give. And then when it started ours, I mean, we did awards too, but we did them during feast. So we didn't have like a second court because we didn't want everybody kind of, okay, got to gather again, get all the chairs together again. So we did a lot of, we did feast awards. And then we did have I guess it's a rose ball or white rose ball court, which is just a presentation court, which people give you stuff, which is really nice. You got some cool stuff. You get cool stuff.
The only thing we had scheduled in the morning was a breakfast with the vice-regal representatives, because we felt it was very, very important, if we didn't already have established relationships with them, to break the ice and make sure that they knew that we needed their input and wanted them to work with us as our representatives, not only in their local groups, but in surrounding areas when we couldn't necessarily be there. So we didn't really have anything until our coronation ceremony, which was what, about noon?
Yeah.
1 o'clock. We gave the morning to Barton Oda to do what they needed to do. And then we picked it up from there.
So
I'm with Bryce. It was it's very important that the stepping down crown have the time to do what they need to do, because at the end of your reign, there are always things that slip through the cracks that you want to address. And again, as he said, it's so very vital that you have excellent rapport with both those who precede you and those who follow you for a continuity standpoint.
So once you've had court and you're now their majesties, take me what the rest of the day is like for you in terms of what you have to get done and how you handled it.
Well, for us, it was, from my standpoint anyway, it was a whirlwind, because knowing we were short on time, we opted to have our champions tournaments during lunch, because there just really wasn't time to get that done separately and then attend to all the different order business that we needed to attend to, so that we got done, so that we didn't interrupt the feast. As somebody who's feast credit a lot, I cannot tell you how important it is not to mess up the feast credit schedule. That's just personally.
Yeah, and for the tournament, we decided on a bear pit because that is a very specific amount of time. And then, you know, how many wins, so you get the wins and losses and all that sort of stuff. And there went Erik. He'll be back. But so you can run a bear pit 45 minutes, and then that's the 45 minutes you have slotted. If you did a double a limb or something crazy like that, you never know how long those last, because different numbers of participants, stuff like that.
And using a little different criteria, we chose our champions from the same tournament.
Yep.
Right.
Of course, I let Rhiannon. Also, Rhiannon always picks first. Duchess is first, or Her Majesty first, always. Always.
So I know when this will eventually, I think, be part of a drinking game, but back when I was crowned, one of the things, I had done a ton of retinue work before then, and I thought I was wrong. I thought going into coronation that I had a good handle on being able to control my time, mine and the Queen's time, making sure that we stayed on schedule. And I thought I had a good handle on how that day would go. And by halfway through the day, I was bewildered as to where the time was and where I was in where we were in the order meetings and keeping things on task. How did you guys handle that? And because I know things like to run long occasionally. I've never been to a peerage meeting that ran short.
Her Majesty is always right. She kept us on, and as a chancellor during my first reign, she was always right again. Kept us on our on time then too. So it's all Rhiannon's fault on ours.
Well, I don't know about that, but I think for us, having done it before, not together necessarily, but I was his heir. So right. Our reigns kind of ran together. But again, so much of it goes back to having the right people around you. Right. We had a drill sergeant of a chancellor, and we had a Gara and an aide. And if you've got good people around you, they know you, and they know the task at hand, and they're not afraid to grab the back of your tunic and say, Your Majesty, I believe you are needed somewhere else, and you can make a polite excuse to get away. I mean, we love talking to the members of the populace, but coronation is a whiz-bang kind of day.
Yep,
and like Bryce said, you get, and you said, Ulrich, you get about halfway through it, and you're cross-eyed going,
Where
what
do we go
plane
to
am I on
next?
now?
Yep.
What's
So,
the next meeting? I don't.
Yeah, we did during ours. I guess we got it the times just right. I mean, there's never enough time for the peerage meetings because they discussions get long-winded, and they don't really have a set time. They're however many how much business they have, you don't have any control over that. So we just said, hey, you've got 30 minutes of our attention, so you can continue your meeting afterwards if you would like to. And we encourage you to do that, but then we have to go to the next one. So, if there's certain ones, and we trust our peers as what they're doing. They'll make they make their recommendations. We approve them or not, that sort of thing. But most of the time, we trust them.
yeah, and that's a
they're
good
peers
point.
for a reason.
Exactly. That's a good point too. We understand that in other kingdoms, it's not necessarily done that way. A lot of kingdoms have done their stuff online for years and years and
Mhm.
years. And now, of course, right now during this damn-demic, we're having to do that stuff.
Yeah.
But traditionally in Meridies, our peers meet, they have an agenda, they provide the crown with a copy of that agenda and the heirs if they're attending. You know what they're going to cover and in what order they're going to cover it. And they make recommendations. And the crown has the right to endorse them or decline them. And just because the crown declines them doesn't mean somebody, is certainly not worthy of consideration, but for whatever reason, you pass it on to the next crown. And the way our orders work, those recommendations stay active. I know personally in my Order of the Pelican, for 3 reigns.
Mm-hmm. I don't really remember it ever happening, but if it did, as far as it never happened to me personally. So, but yeah, if it was somebody else like, don't really want to elevate them or can't elevate them or whatever, it would just go on to the next one. It's not like they have to go through the process of whatever the process that they were doing in that order, whatever their sponsor was having them do. So it's not like it's a restart at all.
They're still on the list of these candidates have been recommended to the crown.
Yep.
So
I'm not worried for that. Okay, so the rest of the day, yay. No, it was very fun. We did like I said, we did have a chance to stop. There's pictures of us too, so there's proof that we did get a chance to stop by the beer Draka and have a libation or two, so that it wasn't a total go here there. I don't remember eating much. I know it was great, but that was the feast was quick.
The beer Draka was conveniently located on where we exited our coronation court to the field we were going to for our champions tourney. And as I said, we had staff to keep us on task. And as Bryce said, we let the orders know when we went into meetings, when we had a chance to make opening statements that we have to leave at, because another order gets our attention at that time.
So for our folks who are from out of kingdom who may be watching, the beer Draka is a trailer that has a collapsible built-up Viking ship on it that is used as a traveling bar to ply our populace with possibly alcoholic and non-alcoholic beverages if you prefer. It's no one's required to drink. They have other stuff too. But there are some wonderful bartenders, a wonderful household that runs it, and some often some very, very beautiful barmaids that work it as well.
Most definitely.
Part of the reason we had a north rain.
That did help. That did help the theme a lot.
Well, yeah, and we're pretty close with the captain and the crew. So
yeah.
And shenanigans.
Definitely.
I heartily approve.
So we've sort of touched on this question regarding the meetings, particularly peerage meetings. And you sort of answered this question by the amount of time that you spent with them and how they continue on after you have to move on to the next one. So you just view your attendance at the peerage meeting as sort of an overseeing the peerage meeting rather than running them specifically, correct?
Absolutely. We have the honor of being considered honorary members of every order in our kingdom, whether we otherwise would be or not. Of course, the Crown has the opportunity to comment in the meetings if they feel strongly enough about something. But generally, it's just like everything else in your rank. You trust your staff to do their job. And our order secretaries are part of our extended staff. And they run these meetings. As I said, there's an agenda, there's an order to follow, and everybody knows ahead of time what's going to be touched on. So it's not our place to run their meetings. At least I don't think so. And that
No,
never,
only if it like starts becoming a train wreck. And
well, yeah.
yeah, if that's the case, then you strongly recommend that, hey, you might want to have a better agenda the next time, if that happens. But I haven't really been in any train wrecks. I've been in some love fests, but not train wrecks.
Well, and I've been in a couple of meetings where as Crown or Heir, when I've had to say, moving along.
Yeah,
usually they're pretty good at taking that as a clue that, we're about done.
That's the kind of the love fest where everybody's, oh, love, 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 love. Okay, everybody loves them. Yay.
That's great. I'm sure there are other people we need to talk about who you love.
So,
But no, it's not our place to run their meetings.
Yeah.
But but that said, you will guide them along if they start to drag their feet about stuff. So
It doesn't happen very often, but yeah.
All right, we lost your audio there for a minute.
Oh, sorry.
No, we've got yours. We lost Rhiannon's.
Oh, okay.
She's not muted, but it's not there. Anyway, we'll go on to the next question. Oh, you're back. All right, so after coronation, you're still working on a schedule. You have a schedule as heirs coming in, and you forecast out some of your, what events you're going to attend. How do you decide what events you're going to, especially like foreign wars and stuff? Were you guys did anyone try to recruit you for Penzic? Recruit the giant Meridian army of like 12 guys that happen to go up with you to Penzic or anything?
Okay, I'll address the Penzic thing. So Penzic, we have a lot of households that go to Penzic, and they meet with their households up there. They camp with them and all this sort of stuff. The Meridian, I mean, I went up there. I pretty much almost sort of day trip Penzic, sort of, though. I was only up there for like 5 days. Yeah, it was fun. I got to go I got to do some of the fun stuff, but I knew that I wasn't going to be up there. The summer was kind of rough for me. I got to do some things, but I couldn't do some others. We had some my wife, she got diagnosed with breast cancer, the real early stage 1 or a little bit earlier. So there were some dicey things there. A lot of plans had to be kind of nebulous. I'll put it that way. So and some things had to be shortened, some things had to be postponed, some of the things Rhiannon had to do and I couldn't. Just at the especially at the radiation times, and she came through it fine. Everything's gorgeous. She's had prefit checkup, so everything's good that way. And I got approval that yeah, exactly. Yeah, here. So I did get approval for her to talk about this a little bit, because things happen during the reign that you cannot expect, or not expect coming down the road. And so your what do you call it? Your schedule, that thing.
Right.
Yeah, that.
Your progress.
You're probably there. Thank you. The word. There's words there. Senility. It happens. So your progress is not set in stone. I know you want to do all the things, especially when you become Prince of Meridies. All of a sudden you're like, I got to do all the things. I'll be crowned. I get to go everywhere. I can be commander of the Great Meridian Death Force up in Penzic of 12 guys. I had 6 or 8 with me, but I had a great time with them. So anyway, what I did was I let everybody say, hey, fight with your households. We had a bunch of the Prashanis, and I actually kind of tag team with them up in the woods. But they're doing their own thing. Had the summer been a little bit more scheduled and not so much personal stuff happen, I was going to make a little thematic. I'm going up there to scout so if we can do Viking raiding parties up there. So, I was undercover, which I was because I got to go around Pennsic a little bit without crown on to do undercover stuff that other crowns saw me doing, and they'd shake their finger at me, and I'm like, I'm undercover. I'm looking for your loot, that sort of thing. So that was my kind of thematic thing for for day tripping Pennsic. And Lily's is a vacation for Meridians. That's Ulrich's favorite vacation.
Absolutely.
Go out there. I think I fought one day. The rest of it was stayed on a boat. The boat's the way to go, or in camp drinking weird milk.
Ulrich's favorite.
So
milk company.
Right. So if you're a war crown, war is what you really want to do. There's things you can do, like you can organize, but it takes a lot of organization to do that because you're herding a lot of cats. So you can get the Meridian 312,000 people up there, which is probably going to be about 80. But remember, there's ways of doing it. So you can make compacts or whatever, or hire mercenaries or whatever, stuff like that. And then you get all the households that they're all fighting in and say, okay, can you fight under our banner? And then you got to go to all the strategy meetings with the East or the middle who you're at. And those can be fun. We'll just put it that way. Because some people take it a whole lot more serious than others. I'll put it that way. And although the hot dogs were pretty good, I did like the brats. The brats were good.
Yeah, and I didn't get to do Pennsic because the summer is my busiest time of the year at work.
Yeah.
And but I'd let Bryce know that up front, and he was good with it. And I hated missing it, but for me, our Kingdom's War is Gulf War.
Right.
And it was awesome to be heirs at Gulf War because you have all the perks and very few responsibilities. So that was my thing.
But you did get to go to the Heraldic Symposium, the known World Heraldic.
Yes, I did get to go to the Heraldic.
Thank you so much for so that was one of the nice things. The first reign, it was Isabella and I. So we went. We didn't split up much. We did a couple times to go to different things, but having a partner on the opposite side of the kingdom who can cover that side and keep Glen Aubin in our good graces is good. And keep Glen Aubin in our good graces.
Keep us in their good graces.
Either way.
But yeah, it was really good that both of us are pretty strong personalities. If y'all haven't gathered that, those of you who don't know us, and while we certainly enjoy going to events together, it was a lot easier for us to go in separate directions than it is for a lot of crowns.
Right.
And that allowed us to cover more of the kingdom. And in our first reigns back in the 90s, that was kind of important. Gareth and I, who I reigned with first, we were, like Bryce and I, 6 hours apart geographically, but Meridies was much larger then.
Yep.
Because we encompassed all of Glen Aubin, and we split up a lot and went in different directions. Yeah, you want to do everything you can to make sure you cover the things that are important to the people in your kingdom.
Yep.
You want to have a good time too.
Since you mentioned that you each live in a different geographic area of the kingdom, how did you handle court prep that way? Did you decide awards during the week, or did you wait to be on site? And how did the process of going to events work now that you were the crown and that you might be going to different places simultaneously?
Okay, as far as the awards, you decide that most of the time a month in advance, because unlike our first reigns, now in Meridies, there are individual scrolls created for every award that is given. And that takes time. We've got a wonderful college of scribes. We've got wonderful people that coordinate making this happen. And the work they produce is stunning. But for them to be able to do that, because remember, we're all volunteers, they need time. So that was decided well in advance. And when we were going in different directions, that meant scrolls got sent to us, at different addresses. And we decided our progress, thank you for that word, early, and, stuck to it as much as we could, barring anything personal coming up that just precluded it happening. And we were very fortunate because there were times we got to cover for each other, which is something we would have done anyway, but we got to, coordinate that. So hopefully it looked relatively seamless.
Yeah, Mr. Suyang and the College of Scribes did a great job getting scrolls to us. How online recommendations work is that they get funneled to was it email accounts? I don't know. Gira handled that mostly. So she would input them we had one staff member input all the recommendations to the Google Sheet. And then I think I went through and double checked where we were going, where they would be. So we split up some duties there a little bit on as far as where I was going, where she was going, where the person was going to be. And there's a lot of information in that little Google sheet that helps out with that. Plus, if you get it early enough, like this, and it's really great to have the recommendation early, because you can transmit that to the College of Scribes. They can make especially for some of the bigger awards, or even AOAs for that matter, because those are important as well. They can make almost persona dictated scrolls to that person. Like if they're Viking persona, they get runes and they get cool stuff like that. Or if they're Japanese, they get something Japanesey. I didn't say the other word. I didn't. But so it just depends on your persona, and so you can get it to them. And then they get to, and then you just kind of decide on that prior to, and it goes on a list. You'll have the scrolls there. If they're not there, well, you got the scroll with their name on it there. Then you can either take it with you to hopefully catch them at another time, or pass along to your heirs when they step up, and they can pass along. That we did some had Bart Noda's signature on them, and I think Timothy Nismay did when we
did
stepped
some
down.
that had Adamar's signature on them, and
yeah, true. They were that far back.
Called the Bueller list.
Yeah.
And at the end of our reign, so we hopefully didn't dump a bunch of stuff on our heirs. We published a list of, we have scrolls for these people. We didn't say what the scrolls were for.
Show up at coronation and pick them up.
Show up at coronation and pick them up, or give us a representative who we can deliver them to.
Yep.
At coronation.
And there wasn't a ton of those, maybe 5 to 10, maybe. So we're pretty good about catching people.
Yeah. But again, our staff worked with us on that too. And all the heralds at events that we attended. The College of Heralds was in the loop, and they helped as much as they could to make sure those scrolls were distributed, because these people have put in the work. They've earned this recognition. The College of Scribes have worked their fingers to the bone, and we want to make sure they get those scrolls.
Yeah, coming from the first reign where we had pre-printed Xerox copied scrolls that I helped sometimes color right before an event. Oh, that's gorgeous. Oof, that's pretty.
This is a preprint.
That's a preprint, but it's pretty.
Scrolls. This is a Sable Sword preprint scroll. This is a Xerox scroll. When I got my Sable Sword, all Sable Sword scrolls looked exactly like this.
That's pretty.
It is. Oh, it's absolutely. So I didn't want people to think that all of our preprint scrolls were like, colored by numbers, looking thing. But I believe during Thomas Nelisanda's first reign, they really got going on the personalized scrolls.
Yeah, kudos to them, because it's really part of the process now. It's added work, but I think the recipients love it, because we love giving them, because I mean they're works of art that you're passing them out. That's giving out awards is one of the top, if not the top thing to do. The fun thing to do as a crown.
Sure.
Just to see people's faces and to give them works of art that are done from other people who put their time, energy, love, talent, and you're passing it along to someone else. You're just the vessel. So, and it's awesome to have that honor. Really is.
Absolutely.
So bids for events while you're crowned, coronation, crown list, rum, all of that. How did that work for y'all? Did you decide for events? Did you pass that on to the heirs? Did you work with the heirs to make decisions?
Yeah. If it happened in their reigns, usually we let them make the decisions unless we had to. I mean,
Yeah,
there was
it was logistically possible for them to do that. Yeah.
we had to kind of, what was it after our reign? It was 40 year or something like that, 30, whatever
Yeah.
year.
40 year. We got to go to that meeting. I think it was at a Castle Wars.
Yeah.
But Bart and Oda made that decision, but we got to attend the meeting and hear the presentation about the bids. In so many cases, you get so few bids that you don't really have a lot of options. And where you do, you look at the bid and what's going to work best for the kingdom. And when you can, you spread these big kingdom events around, so they're not all in Tennessee, where most of my part of the reign was spent. Nothing against Tennessee, had some great events, but it's a long drive from Mobile, Alabama, like every third weekend. So, but yeah, and you trust your officers because they are looking at the bids too,
right?
And they can look back. You coordinate that too with your exchequer, because they can look back at the records of kingdom events a group has hosted before and see if they've been successful financially in addition to just being successful events.
Right.
It all goes back to your staff, and your staff all encompassing. You've got your personal staff and your entourage. You have your vice regal representatives. Erik is a vice regal representative. He and his lovely wife. You got communications. Communicate. If you cannot dedicate the time necessary to communicate, not only with your populace, your staff, your officers, your vice regal representatives, maybe it's not a good time for you to fight and crown a list.
Or just make sure you have the open mind that you're not going to listen to just a couple of people around you. You want to talk to as many people as you can from all over the kingdom to get valid, or to just to get the opinion of a bunch of stuff, especially with bids and things, or with any type of kingdom level decisions or stuff. Just get a whole bunch of opinions. And not just from your close circle. You want it from everybody.
You want to weigh different opinions too.
Yep.
And you got to look at all sides, because it basically comes down to you're going to be one that's held responsible. So you want to be as informed as you can be.
And I'm going to put his name out there, and he's going to hate me for it, but presidentsca.org. He has been he is the one guy who, bear killer. He is the one guy who, if there's something that, it's one of those things that could go either way, and you just kind of go, and it's one of those personal versus populist type decisions you got to make. They're the tough ones. Knock it off of him for a second, and he'll tell you true. And there's a bunch of people out there who are like that too. And just make sure you find them. Don't just don't make a snap decision. And always consult with Her Majesty. Hey, Your Majesties, consult with Her Majesties. It will make for a lot smoother reign. Guaranteed.
Absolutely. And
So-
my favorite phrase was always, if you got put on the spot, we'll take that under advisement. We need to discuss that.
Yep. Yeah, it's a good out too.
A world of stuff. Well, because you have to have time to think about things.
Yeah, especially the important stuff.
One of the things that was different for your last reign as opposed to your first was the combination of a Kingdom ANS and Crown List. What are your thoughts on that, and how did that go for you? And also, do you have any comments that you would like to make about the Crown's specific role in the Day of Crown List?
I think it was a great idea. The calendar in Meridies is so jam-packed. I'm not complaining about that now. I wish we were all being able to have to decide which of 3 events we were going to this weekend. But when you're sitting on the throne, or in any other job where you have to travel a lot in service of the kingdom, it's tough. And I think combining the events benefited both the events. It's always on a 3-day weekend, which allows you to spread it out and dedicate a day to each function specifically. It makes for a very busy weekend, and it's really a trial by fire for your poor heirs if it's that crown. But they definitely get a good taste of what they've stepped into. I think it's worked really well. Through the years, it's progressed and it's gotten consistently better through experience.
Yeah, unfortunately, I had an eye infection, so I missed a lot of it. I didn't miss the important, or not the important. It was all important, but I didn't miss the turning part of it. But Mr. Stig got, I got a little bit enough stuff with my eye to get it functional, and Mr. Tig drove me up there, and so for the list part of it. So I'm sorry I missed the first part of it. I really wanted to be there for it because seeing all the great art of the kingdom is just really great, and I like it. It's almost like a celebration. It's almost like a mini fair or a mini war-like event sort of thing where you get a lot of people together for multiple reasons, and each part has a day. So,
and it's great to integrate the fighting community and the arts community.
Yep.
For people who are diehard one or the other. Of course, we've got a lot of folks in our kingdom, and I'm sure this is true SCA wide, that do both. But there are still people who are specifically geared toward fighting or watching fighting, and then there are others who could care less about the fighting side of it and are there for the art. So I think it has grown rapport between those communities by having the 2 events on one weekend.
So Bryce, I wanted to point out that hardly anyone knew that you had an eye infection. They just thought that you were doing sort of an Odin cosplay. You had this beautiful, for folks that don't know, I'll try and get a picture of it for the show. You had this beautiful eye patch with a medallion or of some sort that you'd made embossed on it. That it looked completely intentional and not like you were covering an eye infection.
Yeah, my eye was not pretty at the time. It was that whole bloodshotty pink eye
look
thing. It wasn't pink eye. It was a bacterial infection.
Right.
Just letting everybody know. And I'd been on antibiotics for a whole 24 hours before I went there, so I wasn't getting anything weird. But yeah, so for the time that I had, I was like, okay, how am I going to cover this? I looked at it, and said, how am I going to cover this up? So I got an eye patch. I'm like, nah, I look like a pirate. But I was making bracteates anyway, those little circle things for newcomers. Sir Finvar actually taught me how to make those things too. And so I just took a bracteate and kind of fit it on an eye patch. And I was like, oh, that doesn't look so bad. I kind of look Odin-y. And so, it kind of took, and it was a great thing for court. Now for Crown List, and we're talking about the crown, for the Crown's involvement with the Crown List. Right. So I watched your thing about the Crown not participating, not being marshal in the field, stuff like that. That you'd be and I agree with you. Looking back on it, I think that's a better way of it, where you have marshals on the field, you have the Earl Marshal off the field, who's who's maybe interacting with the marshals, but he's not on the field with them. And then you have the crown. So you have, like, I think I agree with you as far as you have an appeals process if anything icky happens. Fortunately, we didn't.
Right.
For the list itself, I handpicked a couple, some of the fairest, most innocuous marshals I could, because that were, and they were nice, of course. But I wanted them to I wanted consistency as far as in the marshaling, and wanted I had a specific way in mind of, okay, you're asking questions of them. We're not calling blows for them, but we want to make sure that everything is cool here and everybody's good. The only time I think I did marshal the finals. So yeah, again, yeah, if I say, hey, you're gone, then there's no appeal after that. So yeah, I agree with you there. And during that's why I also had sunglasses, because of the eye infection too. So that's the issue there.
Everyone just thought you were trying to look cool.
Yeah, well,
You didn't have to try to look cool.
you do what you can. You do what you can. But no. So I had a specific way I wanted the marshal to go. So that was just me personal. We'd had a little bit of contention as far as active marshal versus non-active marshal. What's the definition of an active marshal? What's the definition of a non? That whole thing. And I just wanted to make sure it was consistency. So we may have had the same marshals out there, and they had to, they were working hard.
Right.
But that's why that I wanted that. I didn't want to flip out, change it up there and insert someone else out there who may not be with the program. That makes sense.
Makes perfect sense.
Yep. But thinking about it again, I agree with it. Earl Marshall off the field, King sitting on his butt, drinking, watching. Queen too.
So crown list is over. Now you have heirs, apparently.
Yeah.
How does that change the dynamic from your first month as crown? How does the process of training your heirs, if you have to, affect how you do things? Because sometimes you don't have to train your heirs, right? Sometimes your heirs have been there before, maybe 20 years before, but they've been there before.
I think you've got to make sure you've opened up communications with them. If you don't know them fairly well at the beginning, you need to establish that relationship and let them know that, you're here for them. But for us to help you, you need to ask questions. And always keep the lines of communication open. We were very fortunate in our heirs. They had not reigned before, but they had the benefit of having served on entourages, being close to people who had reigned and had taken an active part in these entourages. So they had already had the curtain peeled back a little bit for them. So I think that was a big plus for them, but they didn't hesitate to ask questions when they had a question. And we assured them that there's no such thing as a dumb question. The only dumb question is the one you don't ask because you're afraid you'd be embarrassed to ask it. So I don't think we really had to train them per se. I think you have to encourage them. And for us, when we were heirs, it was important that we be supportive of the crown that we were following. And then we wanted that continuity carry over with our heirs, because if those lines of communication are open, if you discuss things that are going to happen that you're considering putting into place, if your heirs have got a real issue with that, if it's something that, you've considered maybe changing a law or something, and they're going to turn right around and change it back because they've got a strong reason they want to do that, work on it and just maybe avoid those things, because you want continuity with your crowns in the kingdom. I just think it makes everything easier for not only for the people sitting the throne, but for the populace not to have to see any angst. Yeah, sure, there are going to be things you disagree on, but you keep that behind the curtain. And you don't you don't want it to affect people's enjoyment of the SCA.
Yeah, remember, when you get the big hat, guess what? you are yourself, but all of a sudden you just take on a whole nother persona. You are now crown of Meridies. You're now the king and the queen. You have a new role. You would now have to play that role all times, hat on or hat off. Maybe not in the back room with all your retainers. You can kind of, take your shoes off and let your feet be a little stinky. But if you're out there in public, you are somebody's first crown. And that's something I always try to remember, is that no matter where I'm at, when I had the big hat on, or even not, that you are somebody's first crown, and how you act and what you do and how you say, or say is definitely reflected on that. So it also helps court. I think we're talking a little bit about public speaking. It's some people it's their bane. If you think of yourself in a play, we always get asked that anyway. Think of yourself as a play. You are playing the role of king or queen, and but you're improv. You have improv lines, which you do. Sometimes you don't. In some ceremonies you actually have lines. If you think of yourself as an actor and that you are projecting as an actor, you're acting this role, then it gets a little easier. I think it really does. And also, you're doing a service by, we're here to entertain as well. We're here to entertain the populace. We're not here to dull them with a 2.5 hour court. Although sometimes that happens. Nothing you can do about it. But try and get a little spice in there somehow. We had some time limits we tried to set on our court lengths, and you get close. we got closer than some, but 45 minutes is about tops for a lot of people's attention span. You start going into those an hour and a half, and people are like, they start falling asleep and stuff. So that's why we were a big fan of it too, is that having mobile courts where you have, well, if you can't get everything in 45 minutes, well, go to somebody, if it's like a big event like a Fool's War or a Castle War or something like that, you go to the household that's having a dinner or a party or something, and then give an award there.
Drive-by courts were great.
Yeah, drive-by courts, they're fun. And especially with some of it, it's some people like that better than standing up.
People want a more personal interaction.
Yeah.
And there are people in our kingdom who are terrified of coming into court, and you don't want to put that pressure on them if you know that about them. It's a little extra effort on your part, maybe, but it's more intimate, and you're taking into consideration those people's feelings and how they think about court, and you don't want to give anybody a harrowing experience by giving them an award. So yeah, I mean, there are lots of things to consider. And as Bryce said, we really tried to keep our courts to a minimum because people get bored. You lose your voice, and then some people just get silly, stupid, drunk, and it's a little bit crazy. So, and we might want to go get silly, stupid, and have a drink. So why drag people through it? Take care of business. There's got to be some levity, but take care of your business.
We all love her.
We do.
So we talked a little bit about Penzix and Lilies. But there any other foreign wars or just any big events in general during your reign that you would like to talk about something specifically?
Well, one of the coolest events that we did is not foreign, but it was MGT. I mean, that was a really fun day.
We've lost Rhiannon's.
Yeah, she'll catch up.
Yeah, she's going to town.
I felt like it was important that a member of the royal family needed to be there, and my schedule at that time was the freest. And I really enjoyed it. But I basically day tripped too. But it was nice. It was nice to get to meet a lot of people.
Oh, the Heraldic Symposium. We lost your audio there for the beginning, like 2/3 of that. Sorry.
Oops. No, I was just saying that it was great to be able to meet a lot of people. And since our kingdom did host that event, I felt like somebody needed to be there. And I was the person that was in the best position to go. So.
There she goes again.
There she goes again. It's
We may
okay.
lose her this time. Oh, no, she's back. She's back.
She's back. All the fun of almost live TV.
Yep.
So you're talking about MGT, Bryce?
Yeah, so MGT, that was, it's not Foreign War, of course, but it's we had you get lots of people there. It's it's one of my favorite events, and it was really, she'll be back. Oh, there, everybody's there. Okay, but that was a packed day. MGT is probably one of the biggest packed days. It was more packed than Coronation.
I agree entirely.
And guess what? You ain't got any control over it. I mean, you do, but you don't. But it works out just fine. It's near the end of the reign, so it's a lot of times it's packed with some awards stuff. So it's going to be a long court. So just remember to pace. You have to remember to pace yourself. But it's a great celebration of Meridies. It's a great celebration of fighting, of all the groups that get together to support it, of all the heraldic display, of all those. I mean, you don't really get a chance to. I wish sometimes people put up the prizes up there because they're works of art of all the groups put together. Seamus's, or was it? A couple of Seamus's products were gorgeous, and Wolfgang did that brass thing. I think
he did Wolfgang did the winner's scroll in all brass.
In all brass, right? That our foreigner Dietrich got, which he's a really cool dude. I like
Grace Dietrich for Lancia.
He's a cool dude. He downright deserved it. Nobody touched him all day.
Oh,
It
no.
was gorgeous. It was gorgeous watching him fight. But looking at that, I was like, can the king keep some of these prizes? Is that possible? No, it's not possible. You can think it, but it's not possible.
But you can come back the next year and win them.
Yeah, you can try.
Yeah, but you always go in and win that first single sword tourney and have to sit out the rest of it.
Or come in second to Caius.
But no, MGT is a great event. It's probably one of my favorite events. But as Crown, it is chock-a-block full. But I have to commend the staffs, and they change from year to year. But there's so much continuity in what was established there by the founders of that event. And they work their butts off to keep it on schedule. But as Bryce said, there's just so much that has to happen with 7 tournaments?
Yeah.
6.
6. But I mean, visually, it is the most stunning event I've ever attended. And I just think it puts the SCA's best foot forward if somebody who is not a part of the organization happens to come by and see all the pageantry. It's, to me, what the best of the Middle Ages. So yeah, MGT is awesome.
I promise that question wasn't put in there for an MGT plug, but I'll take it. So decoronation planning, Meridian coronation and decoronations for folks from out of kingdoms, and we kind of covered this in the last show, they're very much a show. We're not sitting up there and sitting in state, and there's a small little every time that a coronation or decoronation happens, that there's a ceremony that is rote that we go through. Every coronation and decoronation is different. We kill off our crowns, or they go on crusade, or they go off back to Hogwarts, or whatever the case may be. So they all do these different things. And we do a lot of stick that other kingdoms don't do, and I personally love it. So you kind of covered it earlier that you already had an idea for your coronation. Did you already have an idea for your decoronation? And what was the process of planning all of that? And finally, on that portion, did you have a plan on how you were going to handle at the end of every reign, there's this, all these people who've done stuff for you. There's the last court's always a huge thank you court. You guys have a plan for that?
toward the end of the reign, I think we covered a lot of those individual thank yous as we could.
Right.
Meridian Majesty, Sovereign's Pleasures, things like that. We did hold off for the most part toward the end of the reign, but yeah, you're absolutely correct. There are some things that don't happen till the end of the reign, and then invariably it seems like there are going to be a couple of peerage ceremonies thrown in, which are time consuming, and you need to get your stuff done so that the focus shifts to your heirs. This is their big day. So we had talked all along that we had a period type coronation with a little bit of shtick, because we can't do court without a little bit of shtick. And the populace loved it. But we figured, hey, let's go out with a bang. And Bryce did a great job of coming up with an outline and a script for that. And we got to incorporate just about every member of our entourage had a part in it. And actually, something that's pretty unusual is our heirs actually had a part.
They wanted to, yeah. So everything we did, first of all, we talked to Timothy Nismay at the time and said, hey, this is your day. When do you want to start your shebang? Go ahead and plan your part. We'll fit in the first part. And then came up with the shtick part of it. And Timothy said, "Oh, I got to get in on this." First of all, a lot of times the heirs will not be present because they're either prepping or have to do a costume change or whatever, or whatever they're doing. Like we weren't in the Hogwarts scene. I had to watch that on video, which was really cool. but because we had to put on all our gear at the time. But Timothy said, yeah, I want Takeda to come on back for this. I said, I have the perfect way.
It was awesome because we got to kill off all the knights.
Yeah, because, okay, as a knight, you hate watching the crowns get slaughtered while you're sitting there going, oh, dear me, what, they're killing. Okay, it was Kenneth Sabine's that really hit home because Caius was playing the bad guy and killed Sabine, and I really wanted to kill Caius. That may not be an uncommon occurrence thought sometimes, but it was in my fiber. He shouldn't. I started edging toward him. This isn't the script. So I'm like, okay, this time. All the knights die, all of them, every single one of them, so they don't have to feel that way.
I heart you for that.
Yeah. And most people, it was pretty funny. So
I think the populace loved it.
I was just worried that we'd have enough space with the dead bodies. When we were setting up court, I was looking at the floor going, man, these guys ain't small. And they got a fitting on the ground here, and then people got to walk through, and the Valkyries have to walk through them and not fall on them, and
Well, our Valkyries are pretty hardcore. They wouldn't have had any trouble.
That's true. That's the ones you don't want to mess with, for sure.
Absolutely.
So on a personal note, I want to personally thank both of you for allowing us to die in the defense of the crown. Speaking as a knight, I like to, because that has always been a pet peeve of mine. And for the record, if you interfere in the shtick at the end of court by trying to not let the assassin assassinate the crown because you're a knight, the crowns don't actually appreciate that.
No, they're ready to get out. They're ready to be done. You don't want them to have they don't want to have another 6 months. No, this is now we got to reinvent something here. What's that? I have to go off on a trade route somewhere and get lost in the ocean.
We wanted to go 10 bar on the Beer Draka, and
That's
we
right.
did. And it was a lot of fun. The Beer Draka was a common theme throughout our reign.
Yes.
Wonder why.
So we've got a few questions from the populace that we're going to go ahead and pass along to you. And the first one being, how do you deal with being crowned at event, people deferring to you all the time? Isn't that a little weird?
It is, but as Bryce said earlier, when you take this job, when you fight to take this job, you have a role to assume, and it's part of the role. For me, it was not as bad this time as it was my first reign. And both of us are not people who are used to letting people do things for us. So that takes some getting used to. But I was reminded by somebody, somebody turned my words back on me at one point and said, these people want to have the opportunity to serve you. Who are you to deny them the chance to serve? So that's what I always reminded myself about, because everybody wants to be a part of the whole picture. And this is a way that people can do that.
Yeah, you have your role to play. They have theirs. So
Yes.
by honoring their roles, they are, you're helping everybody, envision their ideal image of the Middle Ages. So, where else can you go besides a LARP or something like that, where you can go and become a goblin? Where else can you go somewhere and become the chancellor of their Majesty's Meridies, that job that you just signed up for? And thank you so much, Ulrich, for taking it.
Absolutely. You are the perfect man for the job.
Oh, no doubt. No doubt.
Happy
So
to serve. Grace.
that makes a lot of sense. Now, were there any unexpected moments when you were crowned? And I realize that's a pretty open-ended question and might even go into things you may not be able to talk about. But I'd really be interested in what you can.
Oh, heck yeah. Okay, so on the serious side, you do get things happen, especially at events, especially when they have to deal with legal matters and things like that. Fool's War, we had an incident. A clear law had been broken, and the person was recommended to be R&D'd right then. I mean, they did it. You have to get a lot of information. Your Kingdom Seneschal has to be in contact with the BOD, the ombudsman that handles the area, and then maybe even the Kingdom Seneschal or the Society Seneschal as well. And we acted pretty quick because it was cut and dry. Those ones aren't, especially if you don't know the people, they're not as hard as you think. It's when you know them, and circumstances can be really, really bad, and those can be difficult. You're going to run into them every once in a while. We were lucky that the one that we had to do was not. It was, they pretty much made their own bed and they aligned it. So, there's some unpleasantness to it. The way I look at reigns, you have a successful reign if 80% of it is great and 20% of it is suck. So if you get, and that 20% suck is when you have to bring the hammer down. Crown has a little hammer and a big hammer. That's about all they got as far as discipline wise. And, the rest of it, you do positive reinforcement when you can, but when you bring the Crown's attention to something that is wrong or has been broken or bad or whatever, they only have a couple of things they can do, and a lot of them starts with sanction. So and those aren't pleasant. No matter how, even if you don't know the person, it wasn't pleasant to have that happen in your court. It's a downer, and it makes you realize that there are some people out there who are not, aren't on the mindset of what they should be doing. So, but you got to protect your people. You got to remember that too. Even though you're playing a role, you actually have a responsibility too. So it's kind of a weird role because you do have responsibility too.
Yeah, I agree with Bryce. Those kind of things, those are the kind of unexpected things that can, flip you a little bit. But you deal with them. And again, you have staff around you to help you deal with them. With that incident, we were very fortunate in that our Kingdom Central at the time was on site before we were. The autocrats brought this to his attention. And hey, actually, he also happens to mundanely be a lawyer. So by the time we were both brought into the loop, which they brought us into the loop immediately upon when we arrived, our Kingdom Seneschal already had basically taken depositions from witnesses and presented this to us and, said, how do you wish to proceed? And, well, we got to do what we got to do, as unpleasant as it is. But yeah, Bryce is right. 80% great, 20% sucks. Pretty good ratio. And we only had about 5 to 7% suck, I think.
Yeah, we had a real good ratio. I mean, barring, damdemic circumstances, I mean, this kind of sucks, but, you have to kind of watch too that you don't contribute to your suck, because you can real easy. So it's just, again, it goes back to asking lots of people opinions about if you're about to make a big move, about to make a big change, something here or there. Just say, hey, what do you think about this? And, you can still do what you want. A lot of times just asking the questions, people will actually give you a little benefit of the doubt, because at least you asked some people. At least you made the effort to find out how people are going to react to stuff, to big bad stuff.
Yeah, and Bryce touched on it earlier. Is very important to have people around you who don't have a problem saying, Your Majesty, can I have a bit of your time in private? What the H are you doing?
Oh, really?
Take the hat off. Take the hat off, Ruth. What the hell are you thinking? Have you been to the beer drinking too much? It's very important to have people who will yank you up by the collar. Privately, of course, because you don't want people to see that needs to be done to you. But the thing is, there's always going to be a situation where sometime during the course of the reign, somebody needs to yank you up.
Yeah. My first reign, I had Rick. I always I always had him to ask the tough questions to. And he gave you honest answers. So I recommend everybody find your Rick. Find your Rick out there. It helps.
Call it speaking truth to power.
Yeah.
So, getting away sort of from some of the worst things that you had to deal with in your reigns, what was your favorite thing to do when you were crowned, other than giving people awards?
Spend downtime with members of the populace. Go from party to party unannounced and just hang out with folks and let them see a little bit more relaxed you. I mean, you still have a role to play, but getting to know new people, and especially, and hopefully contributing to making this an experience that's something they want to join and come back and do. That was a lot of fun for me.
Same. I love that too. Going out there drumming, that's kind of fun. But the one highlight I had was getting to do the royal cruise at Lily's, that with the fireworks. Man, that's worth the price of admission right there. That's worth winning. No, not really. But it's a real big perk of winning crown, was to get to be on that boat when the fireworks are going off. That was cool.
Excellent. Our final question, I feel like we've covered a great deal, so I'm going to give it a little bit of twist on the wording. The person wanted to know how things have changed from your first reign to the second, and how did it change the way you prepared for it. So you pretty well covered that through the questions that we've asked already. So I'm going to ask you, was there a thing to note that was different, that really surprised you?
I think we did touch on it earlier, both of us in our own way. But to me, the biggest shocker with the way things have changed is that people's expectation now is you need to respond within 5 or 6 hours. It's like being in the Twitterverse or something, which I'm not part of. And they don't think that's an unreasonable demand. The weekend Bryce won crown list, by the time I got home, I had like 120 friend requests on Facebook and demands to know who our entire staff was.
Mm-hmm.
We had a good idea going in who we wanted to tap. we're very fortunate in that we've got some of the best friends in the world and a really supportive household who doesn't mind hanging out with us even if they have to work. Um, but I was like, can I take a shower and feed? And don't get me wrong. I mean, we wanted open lines of communication with everybody, and we tried as best we could to respond to folks in a timely manner. But in a lot of cases, some of these questions were things we need to discuss between ourselves and then pull our chancellor in for feedback on. So that was the biggest surprise for me. And I just really thought it was kind of rude. But that's me. I'm a dinosaur.
No, that's the same thing. I mean, from 20 years ago to now, it's like decisions that were made in 2 weeks are made in 20 minutes, or made in a week. You know,
And
and
sometimes that
and
doesn't
and
even
some and sometimes that's not a good thing. You know,
yeah, sometimes it just
sometimes you
makes
need to mull over some stuff.
Mhm.
No, that's basically it. It's just the time compression. Um, you have to probably, and I have a little trouble with it, prioritizing time. But you need to prioritize your time. That sometimes you just put your phone away, or turn on mute a bit and say, I'll catch this business in the morning. Spend time with your kids, spend time with your wife, spend time with your people, spend time with your dog.
Yeah.
Spend time, weird. Spend time with your
There he is.
dog.
The dog that you didn't have when we were on the throne.
No. She'd
But
have
you
been a
did have
great.
a cat, so
Yeah, she'd have been a great footrest. She'd love to be up there in front of him. But no,
And
no, just
I can add,
definitely don't let it consume you. It will at first, but yeah,
make
get
sure you
over
have a day to yourself.
yeah.
Make sure you have a day to turn off the SCA.
No, that was one thing with Stacia getting sick, is that it hits perspective, hits you really fast. And things are going to happen. You know, as being crowned, you have to be at your coronation, be at crown list, and be at your decoronation. All the rest of that stuff in there is great to be at, but those are the three things you have to do. So if things happen, you can just do those things, or just take a little break and do what you have to do, especially personally. Um, you don't always have to give up. You don't have to. And also, if I talked about it and said, hey, if this went bad, she might be on her own, and she was okay with that. So, but fortunately it didn't, and everything's cool.
absolutely.
Yep.
All right, so I'm supposed to go to the parting statements now, but I'm going to throw you a little bit of a curve. It's nothing bad, I promise. I had forgotten about this until I was going through some files when we were setting up the outline for this show. And then I remembered this really cool thing that you guys did for every court. You set up this section called the oracles, and it was for those who had hearing difficulties or sight difficulties or any kind of mobility issues that they needed a better place to sit. So you had the thrones, and then you had this spot of 4 to 6 people on either side for folks who may need a better seat that wasn't necessarily available to them in the front row. And then you had the front row and the rest of court. First, I want to say thank you for doing that. That was awesome. But where did that idea come from? And because as your chancellor at the time, I was a little thrown when you like handed me this thing. I was like,
The diagram. Yeah.
right. And I was like, okay, first, that's really cool. Second, let me go deal with this right quick.
So where that came from, actually, a period source, they had circles back when they were having all things and stuff like that. They'd actually meet in a circle. So that was not uncommon. Another thing too is that people who did have physical challenges back then were sometimes seen as mystics or seers or stuff like that. But on a personal level, my daughter has cerebral palsy and some mobility issues. So the SEA is not as handicap friendly as we'd all like. It's just the way it works. I mean, you're in camps, you're camping, the facilities they try, but not all of them are really available to everybody who has stuff. And so, but with my daughter having difficulties, it's always in my mind. I'm always looking for ramps. I'm always looking for hazards that people can trip over. It's just, the way I'm programmed now. So I'm very conscious of that. And that was a little thing I thought, and some people took advantage of it, some people didn't, or not. I mean, took advantage. They did the right thing. They came on up and used the seats, and sometimes they didn't. But I'm glad it always had the option. And it's just a cool thing to do,
Absolutely. And as he said, it added to the whole Norseness of our rank.
Yeah, sometimes, and we'd ask them questions sometimes, especially on awards we're about to give someone, say, you think they're worthy of this? What do you see? So we'd include them in the shtick sometimes if we knew them, and sometimes we didn't, and we did anyway. So,
No, it's awesome. It really made me. I thought I had anything to do with it. It really made me proud. I just wanted to make sure that was brought out. I had not forgotten about it, but it reminded me of it when I was going through some of the paperwork to try and make sure I got some good questions here. All right, so parting statements. Is there anything that we missed in this? Any points about being crowned that you want to cover that you think we may have glossed over in these questions?
Retinue. So you're going to have your key people. You're going to have your 2 to 3 that are just going to stay with you through thick or thin. They're going to be with you every time. I had Mr. Stig, I had Sir Erik. I mean, they were with me all the time. They were my rock stars that would ride with me everywhere. We had to do split retinues a little bit. I know Gear and Gunther for Rhiannon was with her, plus Jessica and lots of other folks. I mean, you want a good amount of retinue. I think we tried to get a bunch in there at first because you want to spread the load a little bit, but you're always going to have your 1 or 2. And so make sure you have your 1 or 2 and try and spell them as much as you can when you can, so they don't get burnt out. They're probably still going to get burnt out. Just that's the way it's going to work. But if you try and do little things to kind of help your number 1 and number 2 to get through it, then they're what makes all the cogs work. They're the ones who help unload, load, stuff like that, get you to events when you're not feeling good and you have to go, or getting you home from them the same way, or not holding your hair or anything because I don't have hair to hold, but that sort of thing.
Yeah, but Bryce is right. And
Bryce is always right.
Well, no.
Isn't that a game show? It should be.
The Bryce is right. There you go. There's another idea for a show.
I don't give him the big head anymore.
That's more of a drinking game, definitely.
Yeah, but he's correct. I mean, your key people are your key people. We were very fortunate that we each had a couple of people who were always there for us. There were a lot more than a couple of people who were there for us the majority of the time. One of the pieces of advice I usually give incoming crowns is make sure you have people all over the kingdom. That way, if you go to an event in East Jesus, your folks don't all have to follow you there. There's somebody there. And another thing is when people come up and offer to help, who may not be in your entourage, whoever your acting chief retainer at an event is, if you can put them to work, put them to work. Again, you allow them the opportunity to serve, to be a more integral part of this, and you lighten the load on your entourage.
Yep.
So it's a win-win. But yeah, to me, the biggest thing that makes the rain work is the people you have around you. Yes, you have to be dedicated. You have to want to do this, but you've got to have the right people around you, or you're going to look like an idiot at some point or another. Because
and you still might, and that's okay. Just apologize. I'm an idiot. Move on.
Well, yeah, exactly. But this is not something 2 people do.
No.
Absolutely not something 2 people do by themselves. No way, no how. At least not the way we play here. and that's all I'm familiar with. So.
Excellent. So this is the part of our show where we normally do shout outs and we talk about people who are doing good things in the kingdom or like other shows that you're watching in terms of the SCA. But I'm going to take the opportunity, because I can, to do the first shout out, and that's to both of you. And I want to give both of you a shout out because you let me talk you into giving Duke Max a couple of bye fights at the Crown List that you held, and that was amazing. And I owe you.
I don't think Duke Peru really appreciated it, but no, that's fine. That's fine. You know, you are welcome, sir.
Shenanigans. Always coming up with shenanigans. The dog is over it. The dog just left the room.
Yeah.
It's always good when we see a pet.
My cats are all sleeping. Look, I mean,
Yep,
on the sofa.
all of them slackers.
That's
Slacker
fantastic.
cats. Slacker cats.
Glad we put them to sleep.
Now, the other things I'm watching right now, as far as videos wise, anything from Duke Branos, I'm seeing that the SCA Coaches Corner, it's hard to get out there fighting, so people can get out there, pal a little bit. Just kind of helping out with that. All the little fighting videos, do film study, do a little bit of workouts here and there, because when we get back in there, we're all going to be hopefully not very mashed potato-y, but be careful when you do get back, when we get back full swing, and heat management is it going to be a thing? And hey, there's another cat. So watch all the videos. Duke Dietrich has some great Tabatas out there that he has put up on YouTube, and it makes Pell work a little less boring. A little, Pell work's boring. It's boring. But if you get out there and hit it 15 minutes 3 times a week, you're going to be a whole lot better than if you don't. I'm telling you.
Real.
I'm not a big watcher of stuff on the internet. Obviously, everybody knows how internet challenged I am. I do follow what people are posting that they're doing on Facebook and find some interesting things and get some input. You get input from people everywhere, which is pretty cool. Because we're all trying to keep up as best we can. And there are only so many ways to do that. The one thing I'm very grateful for is that we have an active Kingdom page, and people post, and I'm in touch with a lot of people privately online, and am able to keep up with what they're doing. And we all keep each other going that way. This has been, I'm a social animal, and this has been very difficult for me. I mean, I have enjoyed the downtime to an extent, but it's important for me to keep up with y'all and with so many other people. So that's what I'm doing.
I was going to give a shout out to the Coach's Corner too. I watch that pretty religiously every Friday. I also watch Between Two Peers every Friday. It's become a thing for me. It's my Friday night. I go to Coach's Corner, then I have an hour of video gaming or something, and then I go to Between Two Peers. Also, A Murder of Dukes on the Sisters channel is really great. You can see Bryce on that. It's a good show.
I rap in my episode.
You do. I was expecting a little more Feisty Boys in it, but that's fine. We'll take what we can get. The other thing, and this wasn't planned. I thought about it as I sat here and realized that Bryce had taken my Coach's Corner call out. But I want to throw a little love to their Majesties Tim and Ismay for their fireside chats.
Definitely,
it's really a great thing to keep the kingdom together, and it's something that we need right now. I look forward at the end of this, when we come out of it, to hugging all y'all. Even you, Eric. I'm gonna hug you.
We're gonna group hug you. We're gonna surround you. It's gonna feel like a turfing, but it's really a hug.
Right. And a little bit, I want a little credit for surviving 3 gingers in this show, all at the same time.
You asked for it, buddy.
I did ask for it. So that's the last of the shout outs, unless you have something extra, Eric.
Nope, I sure don't. I'm good.
You can always, by the way, you can always find us on Saturday nights too. So we'd like to take this chance to thank our guests, Rhiannon and Bryce. Her ladyship, Jessica of Osprey, who is an absolute rock star in putting together our graphics and making sure that our stuff is promoted well on the Kingdom page and other places, and for her constant populist questions, because she's amazing in that. Our Graf and Katerina keeps us on time on our questions. She gives me this little high sign like, hey, you guys are starting to run long on this question.
Good.
And most importantly, she does the populist questions that she'll hand us during this. This is a tape show. This is nothing special here. So we'll take populist questions and answer them in the Zoom at the end. And most importantly, I want to take the chance to thank you, the audience, and the populists, without who we would not have a reason to even do this show.
Please join us next week for A Rose by Any Name with our special guest, Her Royal Majesty Yasme, Grafnet Elphicapoo, and Countess of Shielder, as we cover what happens from the crown off and waltz off into the sunset, and what it's like to be a rose and a royal peer.
All right, so if you're watching live and you'd like to join us after the show and hang out and chat, then watch the Hound and Stag main page where Graf and Katerina will post a link to the Zoom, and then we'll answer any populist questions there. And if you're watching on YouTube, then like and subscribe down here. Or if you're watching on, or maybe it's over here, I can't tell which side it's on, somewhere down here for YouTube. And then for if you're happen to be watching on Facebook, it'll be up here somewhere, like the page. That gets us more people to see it. It increases the popularity of the show. It makes it easy for other folks to see. If you're in the Zoom, we'll hang out for about half an hour. And other than that, we'd like to say good night, everybody. Thanks for hanging out for the show. It's good to see everyone.
Good night. Happy New Year, everybody.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. Absolutely.